Welcome to Africa Geotrends, your window into Africa's power, progress, and geopolitics. Asterisk before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the stories shaping Africa's future. They said Africa would always be the last to switch on. But in 2025, a silent storm of glass and light began sweeping across the continent. Not from oil rigs or coal plants, but from crates stamped, "Made in China." In a single month, Africa imported 1.57 gigawatts of solar panels. That's enough electricity to power nearly 2 million homes. No breaking news ticker caught it. No viral headline declared it. Yet this one statistic may have just redrawn the global energy map. The West didn't see it coming. The world barely noticed. But in the ports of Algiers, Lagos, and Mombasa, ships were unloading the future. Africa's energy story has always been written by others. First colonial powers, then oil companies, and finally development banks. But this time, the script is being rewritten by Africans themselves, using silicon cells that catch sunlight instead of pipelines that bleed crude. According to 2025 trade data analyzed by the global think tank Ember, African nations imported more than 15 gigawatts of solar panels from China between June 2024 and June 2025, a 60% year-on-year jump. One country stood out above all: Algeria. Its imports surged by an astonishing 6,300%. In just 1 year, a desert nation once dependent on oil refineries has become a hub of photovoltaic ambition. What's happening is bigger than a trade story. It's a tectonic shift in who owns the energy of the 21st century. For decades, Africa was trapped between the high cost of fossil fuels and the low confidence of investors. Now, it's leapfrogging the fossil era entirely. Across the continent, from Egypt's Benban Solar Park to South Africa's Northern Cape, from Kenya's Garissa Array to Morocco's Noor Complex, the numbers are multiplying like sunlight on mirrored fields. But why are Chinese solar panels suddenly flooding Africa? The answer lies in a triangle of opportunity: price, policy, and politics. China currently produces over 80% of the world's solar panels. Its factories, powered by scale and automation, have driven module prices down by nearly 40% in just 2 years. Meanwhile, global trade disputes and Western tariffs on Chinese solar exports have pushed Beijing to look elsewhere, and Africa, with its vast land, young population, and rising demand, became the perfect destination. The impact is staggering. In Algeria, state utility Sonelgaz has launched an 8,000-megawatt solar tender, the largest in North Africa's history. In Nigeria, the federal government's Solar Niger program aims to power 5 million homes through distributed rooftop systems. Egypt, already home to Africa's largest solar farm, is now expanding into floating PV along the Nile. In Kenya, local startups are combining Chinese modules with homegrown battery innovations, building microgrids that light villages beyond the national grid's reach. These are not isolated events. They are fragments of a continental mosaic of transformation. And yet, the biggest story may not be in the megawatts, but in the mindsets. For years, Africa's energy narrative was one of scarcity and dependency. But the arrival of cheap, efficient Chinese solar has turned scarcity into surplus in many regions. Rural clinics, once running on diesel generators, now store vaccines in solar-powered refrigerators. Fishermen on Lake Victoria preserve their catch using sunlight. Schools in Ghana hold evening classes under solar LEDs. In Ethiopia, remote agricultural co-ops use solar-powered irrigation to triple their yields. Light is becoming not just a utility, but an equalizer. There's a new phrase circulating among policy experts: the solar sovereignty movement. It's the idea that energy independence no longer means owning oil fields or gas pipelines. It means mastering your own sunshine. Africa, with 60% of the world's best solar resources but less than 1% of installed capacity, is finally claiming its natural advantage. And this time, the momentum isn't coming from global lenders with strings attached. It's coming from entrepreneurs, cooperatives, and governments that have decided enough waiting. The sun can't be privatized. Critics argue that China's growing dominance in Africa's solar supply chain is simply a new form of dependency, swapping oil for panels. There's truth in that concern. But others point out that dependency can be transitional when coupled with capacity building. Several African countries are already localizing parts of the value chain. Egypt's Benha Electronics and Algeria's Condor Group are assembling panels domestically. South Africa's Aart Solar has restarted production in Durban. Even Rwanda is piloting local inverter assembly. The vision isn't just to import the light, but to manufacture it. Behind the statistics are people, engineers, students, and small business owners reshaping their communities. In Lagos, 27-year-old electrical engineer Amaka Okafor runs a startup that designs modular solar streetlights using Chinese monocrystalline cells, but locally sourced poles and batteries. Her company, Lumi Africa, has lit more than 12 kilometers of roads in just 6 months. In Algeria, project manager Khaled Benzian oversees construction of a 200-megawatt solar farm outside Biskra. Every morning, we open the panels like pages of a new future, he says. We used to export oil. Now we export electrons. Africa's energy revolution is also rewriting its relationship with global power blocks. While the International Monetary Fund and World Bank traditionally shaped Africa's energy priorities through loans and conditionality, the new wave of solar deals often bypasses those institutions entirely. Instead, they flow through bilateral partnerships, regional banks, or private ventures supported by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the Africa Finance Corporation. It's a subtle but seismic change, a decentralization of who decides Africa's energy destiny. Numbers tell the story better than speeches. In 2010, Africa's total installed solar capacity was less than 1 gigawatt. By 2020, it was 8 gigawatts. By 2025, with imports like these, it's projected to exceed 50 gigawatts. That's a 6,000% increase in 15 years, the fastest growth rate on any continent. Yet what makes this transformation most astonishing isn't just the scale, but the speed. While Western nations debate green transitions and carbon markets, Africa is doing it out of necessity and doing it fast. Geopolitically, this trend is shifting alliances. China, once focused mainly on mining and infrastructure, is now embedding itself in Africa's renewable future. Western investors, late to the game, are scrambling to catch up. The United States recently launched its Power Africa 2.0 initiative to counterbalance Beijing's influence. The European Union has proposed new solar manufacturing partnerships through its Global Gateway Plan. But on the ground, the panels already glint, and they all say made in China. Economists see a paradox. Africa's green boom is powered by fossil fuel wealth elsewhere. The polysilicon that makes solar cells often relies on Chinese coal-based electricity. Yet the trade-off is strategic. Africa gains infrastructure and clean energy while the supply chain evolves. In time, more manufacturing could shift southward, especially as Africa develops its own critical minerals industries for lithium, cobalt, and copper, all vital to solar and battery technology. Then there's the youth dividend. With 60% of Africans under 25, the renewable energy sector is fast becoming a magnet for jobs and innovation. Vocational centers in Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal now train thousands of solar technicians every year. Universities in South Africa and Morocco are pioneering research into perovskite cells and grid storage. As costs keep falling, analysts predict solar power could become cheaper than any fossil-based electricity across the continent by 2027. For the first time in history, Africa isn't waiting for the industrialized world to lead, it's setting the pace. But the story isn't without shadows. Some imported panels are low quality or mismatched for local climates. Recycling and waste management remain challenges, as does access to financing for rural projects. Experts warn that without long-term planning, today's boom could become tomorrow's e-waste. Yet, even critics admit the direction is irreversible. As one energy analyst from the African Union put it, you can't unsee sunlight once it powers your village. The symbolism of this transformation is powerful. For centuries, Africa's resources, gold, oil, diamonds, left its shores to light the world elsewhere. Now the opposite is happening. Light itself is arriving to illuminate Africa's own future. The trade winds that once carried extraction now carry empowerment. Ports that once exported raw wealth now import technology that multiplies it. And the spark came not from aid or charity, but from a simple equation: abundant sunshine, falling prices, and human will. In July 2025, drones filmed the coast of Algiers as a new 500-megawatt solar field came online. Rows upon rows of panels shimmered against the desert horizon. In that moment, as control room monitors turned from red to green, Algeria joined a new class of nations shaping the post-carbon world. The message was clear: the sun no longer sets on Africa's ambitions. Across the continent, from Cape Town to Cairo, a quiet race is underway. It's not about who builds the tallest skyscraper or the largest stadium. It's about who controls the power that defines the century. And right now, Africa is catching that power straight from the sky. The solar revolution is not waiting for permission, policy, or perfect timing. It's already here. It hums on rooftops, it gleams on desert sands, it floats on lakes. It powers lamps, clinics, servers, and dreams. In 2025, while the rest of the world argued about the cost of transition, Africa proved that transition is survival, and survival is the greatest innovation of all. So the next time someone says Africa is behind, show them the numbers. Show them the satellites capturing megawatts of sunlight from Algeria's desert, Nigeria's plains, Kenya's highlands. Show them the ports where Chinese containers unload glass that will outlast oil. Show them the children doing homework under solar lamps where diesel once choked the air. Because history isn't written in ink anymore, it's written in light. And Africa is writing faster than anyone else. You've been watching Africa Geo Trends, where Africa's moves shape the world. That if you haven't already, subscribe now and stay ahead of the next big story.